How's it going, everybody? It's Warren, and welcome back to my channel, The Cosmic Wonder, where we talk about all things Marvel and everything relating to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Spider-Man 3's production is set to begin in only just a few months. Tom Holland just has to finish filming Uncharted, and then he's on the set for Spider-Man 3. Then, of course, all of the crazy leaks and details about the movie will probably come out, and they'll probably come from Tom Holland himself. But pretty soon, we should finally figure out just what is going on in the life of Spider-Man after his identity has been revealed. But what are the future plans for Spider-Man after Spider-Man 3? Well, some recent rumors that have been going around the past few months say that Sony and Marvel are actually preparing us for a Venom vs. Spider-Man showdown. Now, of course, when you hear that, you freak out internally because that's what everybody wants, which means it would be a very wise decision for Sony and Marvel to do. And that could possibly be what they're planning, because a rumor says that we're going to be seeing Spider-Man in the post-credit scene for Venom 2. And this will apparently go on to set up the Sinister Six and Venom vs. Spider-Man in a future film. So we'll break it down, but first be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the Marvel videos, and so you can enter this week's giveaway for a chance to win a Doctor Strange Funko Pop. Just subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment down below to enter. So the recent rumor says that Spider-Man will show up in the Venom 2 post-credit scene. And spoiler warning in case this rumor actually does end up being true and happening. But rumor has it that at the end of Venom 2, Venom and Eddie Brock will have defeated Cletus Cassidy and Carnage. Cletus will unfortunately be killed, but apparently Carnage won't be done for good. And apparently he will talk to Venom in this post-credit scene and convince him that he's not actually good. He's an evil being that needs to eat other beings. Then they will apparently see Spider-Man in the post-credit scene, and that's when they decide to go after him. And this will ultimately lead to a Venom vs. Spider-Man showdown. Now, right now, this is just a rumor, but we already have confirmation from Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, saying that Spider-Man can indeed cross over into the other universe that Sony has, the SPUMC, the Sony Pictures Universe of Marvel characters. In fact, he teased us that there could be something very, very big coming. After the news that Spider-Man is indeed staying in the Marvel Cinematic Universe after the recent Sony-Disney Spider-Man scare, Marvel Studios' president and now COO of Marvel in its entirety, Kevin Feige, said this in particular. Spider-Man also happens to be the only hero with the superpower to cross cinematic universes. So, as Sony continues to develop their own Spideyverse, you never know what surprises the future might hold. This is actually a pretty big deal that some people may have overlooked a little bit. This is the Marvel Studios president basically confirming that we are going to see Spider-Man in the Sony universe. And if we think about it, of course, this makes perfect sense. Sony is actually building up their own team to take on Spider-Man, and there's plenty of proof for this. For one, Kevin Feige said, "You never know what surprises the future might hold." This is pretty much confirming Spider-Man will jump over. And then, not too long after this, we got the trailer for Morbius. And in the trailer, we got two new pieces of evidence that this is going to happen. We have a scene with Spider-Man on the wall with the words "murderer" over him. And then we have Michael Keaton's Vulture from Spider-Man Homecoming talking to Morbius in the trailer in what looks to be him trying to recruit Morbius for something. And there's probably only one thing that he could really be trying to recruit a living vampire for, and that would be to help him take down a certain spider that he couldn't do himself. A certain superhero that foiled his plans, put him in jail, and basically made him a really bad father. That's probably something that you'd want payback for. But he knows that he can't beat Spider-Man because he already lost to him. So he needs a team, and fortunately for him, he already met the first person of his team while he was in jail. He met Scorpion.
And I heard a rumor. You know who he is?
If I knew who he was, he'd already be dead.
Tubes! Your family's here!
Now, in this post-credit scene, Scorpion says, "I heard a rumor that you know who he is." And surprisingly, it doesn't seem like Toomes wants to give away Peter Parker's identity, because after all, he is just a kid still. But if you pay attention, the guard says, "Toombs, your family's here." And then he walks away and he goes to see his family. Now, this probably won't end too well. When you get thrown in jail for doing illegal things, your wife and your daughter usually don't look upon you too well. So what I predict is going to happen is that he's going to meet with his family, and they're going to be extremely disappointed with him, and this visit probably won't go too well. His wife may leave him, and his daughter, if she is even there, may say that she's never going to come visit him. And this is going to spark his revenge. After this, he'll throw the fact that Peter Parker is a teenager out the window, and that's when he'll plot his revenge. But we have to keep in mind that Spider-Man Far From Home has happened after Homecoming and before Morbius, meaning that everybody now knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So Scorpion will go back and talk to Adrian Toombs about Peter Parker being Spider-Man, and that's when they'll plot their revenge and form their team. Now, this of course will be the Sinister Six, but who will be the members? Well, if this rumor about the post-credit scene of Venom 2 is true, that means that Venom and Carnage could be on this team. Now, the Sinister Six versus Spider-Man will be different than Venom versus Spider-Man, but it is possible that Sony and Marvel have plans for both. Sony actually already came out and said after the first Venom film release that they actually wanted Tom Holland in the movie. However, at the time, Marvel Studios said no because they didn't want people to confuse the universes. Well, that's kind of out the window now since Kevin Feige said that Spider-Man can cross over into different universes, and we saw Spider-Man in the Morbius trailer, so that confusion or fear of confusion is pretty much out the window. Plus, we know that Disney and Sony made a new deal, and we don't exactly know all the fine details, but it's pretty much believed that Sony and Disney made a deal that said Spider-Man and other Sony characters that appeared in the MCU can cross over into their universe. So this gives Sony pretty much exactly what they wanted, Spider-Man in a Venom film. Now, Venom 2 has already been filmed, it's already done, and we know that Spider-Man, in the MCU at least, has one more solo film and then a team-up film left on his contract. But that's all the details that we really know. And as far as everybody is concerned, Spider-Man can jump over to the SPUMC anytime he wants. And we know that they're building a universe that seemingly doesn't like Spider-Man. We know this from the photo of Spider-Man in the Morbius trailer that says murderer over it. So what is Sony's and Marvel, because as of right now they do have a say in this, master plan? Well, it's seemingly the Sinister Six, which has clearly been set up in the MCU and in the SPUMC, and then Venom. Everyone wants to see the Sinister Six take on Spider-Man, but ultimately they want to see Spider-Man vs. Venom. And Sony knows this, and apparently it's what they wanted since the very first Venom film. And with Kevin Feige basically giving the okay that Spider-Man can jump over into that universe now, and telling us that we may be in for a little bit of a surprise in the future, everything is pretty much set up and laid out for us to eventually get a Spider-Man vs. Venom film. And we may be in for a reverse comic situation. In the comics, Venom bonds with Spider-Man, and once the two of them separate, Venom begins to hate Spider-Man because he actually wants to re-bond with him, but Spider-Man won't have it. So it's pretty much a love-hate relationship. But of course, if you've seen Venom in the Sony universe, we know that the first Earth host for Venom is Eddie Brock. And this is much different from the comics because in the comics, when Spider-Man gets away from Venom, Venom then goes to Eddie. So could we possibly see the separation of Venom and Eddie, and then the bonding of Spider-Man and Venom in a future film? It seems like that's what Sony wants to be set up. And when this happens, perhaps the Venom symbiote may enjoy Peter Parker a little bit more than Eddie Brock. And this could create a lot of problems, especially between Peter Parker and Eddie Brock, who will no doubt at the time love having the Venom symbiote. And Peter Parker in the MCU, being the good kid that he is, won't want the Venom symbiote. And that's where that Eddie Brock hate for Peter Parker could come, and that's where the Venom hate for Peter Parker could come as well. So undoubtedly, Sony has some pretty big plans for Spider-Man in their own universe, and apparently right now, Marvel Studios is okay with it. What would you think of a Venom versus Spider-Man film, and what would you want to see from it? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe so you can stay up to date on all the latest Marvel videos. For live updates and stupid memes, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.